Inner Light Show. It's time to stop just surviving, and it's time to begin to thrive. It's time to live happier and healthier. Turn stress into strength. Noted author Debbie Mandel will show you how to move beyond personal doubts and fears and into positive perception to turn on your inner light. Here's your host, Debbie Mandel.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my show. Our guest expert is Mark Nepo, poet, philosopher, author of 13 books, including the New York Times bestseller, The Book of Awakening, and is the author of 7,000 Ways to Listen. Okay, let's listen to this. Welcome, Mark.
Oh, it's good to hear. Good to be with you.
All right, while you mentioned it, what's the difference between listening and hearing?
Oh, well, let me tell you a quick story that will point that up. There's a master and an apprentice. There's always a master and an apprentice. And the master sends the apprentice to sit by a river and till he has learned all the river has to teach. So he goes and he sits by this river, and he's not sure where to sit. He sits very close, but he doesn't want to miss anything, but it's too noisy, and then he backs up away by a willow tree, and now he's too far away. But finally, he settles in, and he sits quietly for 3 days. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a monkey comes along, jumps in the river, and is splashing and yapping and making all kinds of noise. And the monk is cracked. He starts to weep. And he gets all his things, and he goes back to his master and explains what happened. And his master says to him, the monkey listened, you just heard. So the difference is that listening gets us wet. Listening gets us into the stream of life, whereas simple hearing, it can be useful and can help us understand mentally, but it doesn't have us enter life.
So what you're saying is listening is really about input from our senses. And I suspect that you wrote this book, let me be bold, because you lost your hearing for a while during your treatment phase of cancer. And did that cause you to go inward?
Well, actually, I started this book about 4 or 5 years ago, and the hearing loss was beginning, but I wasn't quite aware of it, so I found it amazing that I was drawn to write a book about listening. And also let me say that when I'm writing books, they're the way that they're inquiries. They're the way that I learn. So I was being drawn to learn more ways to listen as my hearing was breaking down. And yes, the hearing loss goes back 20 years or more to the chemo I had that slowly was damaging the inner cilia, the little hairs that convey frequency in my ears. So, but yes, I have been called to move more inward. I talk about it as that the center point, if we are a point and we listen both inwardly and outwardly, the center point of my listening has moved more inwardly. And I have been invited and challenged to listen with more than just my ears, to listen with an open heart, with an open mind, to really be present to and that's really what the investigation of listening opened up to, was how do we truly live our lives to the fullest? And as you know from the book, this led me to really frame 3 kind of major friendships, I like to call them, not understandings, because understandings are like that monk sitting on the river, but not getting in the river, and that everything in life, including life itself, is alive. And therefore, I think one of the greatest challenges of our time on all levels is to stay in relationship, which requires us to listen. So the large friendship is, how do we befriend everything larger than us? How do we listen to that and stay in conversation? It's like a fish learning from the current. And this is the wisdom of Source. This is the wisdom and the first part of the book, as you know, is the work of being. And the second friendship is a little closer. It's the work of being human, which involves our being in friendship and conversation and listening to our experience as our teacher. I really feel that every experience we have is another word in the language of our own wisdom, which we don't really understand until we live each one. And the third part of the book, the work of love, is something that's much closer to us and we're more familiar with, and that's the challenge and entanglement of the wisdom of care. How do we truly listen to ourselves and each other?
I think this is a very timely issue, because if I'm going to take all these beautiful metaphors and reduce them to what is happening in reality, is we don't listen to other people. When we're stressed, we're distracted. You could be talking to me and I'll be scanning over your head thinking about the next thing on my to-do list.
Absolutely.
So it's very important I think to just begin as a springboard to listen to other people, because when I don't, I invalidate them. I'm rude. I dismiss them, and they carry that with them. I mean, this listening is something you pay forward. Do you agree?
I do agree, and I think that I very much believe that the experience of being human is this magnificent, complicated, beautiful, frustrating, unending journey that involves, I would invite everyone, and I struggle with myself, to develop a personal practice of return. And what I mean by that is that being human, there are times I won't listen. How do I return? My eyes blink how many times a day? We inhale and exhale. Our muscles, as we move, dilate and constrict, and we open and close, and we listen and we don't listen, and we're awake and we go numb, and we're clear and we're confused. And I think that the blame game, whether it's on ourselves or others, isn't really helpful because it's not specific enough. Each of us needs, when we don't listen, to find our way back to listening. When I am confused, how do I find my way back to being clear? And I think that, our mind is such a gift for human beings,
as long as we don't lose it,
and a curse, even when we have it, because we have this tremendous ability to gather knowledge and to learn from experience and from others. And this is the curse part.
Well, I want to hold that thought.
Okay.
I don't want to rush the curse, but we're going to commercial break, and we will return with Mark Nepo, author of 7,000 Ways to Listen.
Now you can take Debbie Mandel home with you. Her book, Turn On Your Inner Light, Fitness for Body, Mind, and Soul, will help you decompress with healthy, positive, concrete solutions. Common life challenges are presented so that you can quickly find the help you need. Emotional tips, original meditations, and a fun and easy-to-follow fitness workout for each mindset. This revolutionary new method will help you rewire mind and body to take back your power. Get it on Amazon.
Are you overwhelmed with the burden of taking care of children, parents, or both? Are you taking care of everyone else except yourself? It's time to change your habits and re-energize. Debbie Mandel gives you an innovative and easy-to-follow program for good health and happiness. In her magical new book, Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, Debbie Mandel shows you step-by-step how to find the optimal balance between giving and receiving, and guides you to exercise and eat right to take care of yourself. What are you waiting for? Read Changing Habits and start training for your life. Life does not need to be a burden. Get Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout on Amazon.
listening to the Turn On Your Inner Light show. I'm your host, Debbie Mandel, and I'm speaking with Mark Nepo, author of 7,000 Ways to Listen. Okay, before commercial break, we were talking about the curse. The mind,
the strength and gift and the curse of our minds and our consciousness. So what I was suggesting is that we have this amazing ability to gather knowledge, to remember, to hear things and move it into wisdom if possible or insight. But the curse is that they solidify into judgments and assumptions. And they, like cataracts, form over our eyes. They block our hearing. They shut down our heart. So one of the big challenges in a day-to-day way in relationships for me, and one of the keys to listening, is to put down our judgments and our conclusions and our assumptions so we can meet life and each other freshly.
I feel my angel wings sprouting now. That's wonderful in an idealization. But let me tell you something that that really stuck to my ribs, apropos to that, was when you wrote "Stop Rehearsing and Just Live." Do you want to explain that phrase?
Yeah, this is one of the vows I try to keep, is to stop rehearsing life and live life. And that is, this is where we can take this notion of the assumptions and the conclusions and the preparations, that we all do. Every time we meet something, we are rehearsing what we're going to say, what we're going to do. If my tire goes flat, how am I going to handle it? If someone is rude to me, what am I going to say? If I'm hurt, or even in conversation, you and I are at a party and the topic of abortion comes up, and before you even finish whatever your point of view is, I'm already searching inside in my file system for where's my most recent opinion on abortion to meet this. Well, all of that prevents us from meeting life freshly. And I'll tell you, this goes back to a great learning from my cancer journey. That, growing up, I learned how to anticipate and be on guard. And I used to call it my catcher's mitt, that I could be hurt but not surprised. And I would catch everything, even behind me, like I had eyes in the back of my head. Well, after my cancer journey, this reflex had become so strong that it was keeping me from being touched by life and by people. And I realized when I was still blessed to be here that I didn't survive not to be touched. And I had to learn to put that mitt down, no matter if I was hurt, no matter if I was surprised. Brother David Stendhal Rast says surprise is another name for God. So I'll give you a very good example. My wife and I, we've been together 18 years. And when you know someone so well, friends or loved ones, I know her so well I could finish her sentences.
But please don't.
Exactly. Staying in relationship and listening means not to. It means every day coming freshly and saying, who are you today? Who are you now? And I know you thought this about this subject, or you had feelings about that, but what do you feel now?
You know what I see that is? For me, that's having a beginner's heart. We're all taught to have a beginner's mind, but to have a beginner's heart.
I agree completely.
I figured you would. That's why I brought it up. What do you think? It's just a coincidence? I'm listening to you, Mark Nepo. I'm absorbing you. And to me, that's how to approach life. For me, don't be a teacher. I'm a student today. What is life going to teach me? What are the clues? What story am I going to weave out of the clues today? And that's why it really resonated for me when you wrote Stop Rehearsing and Just Live. That's such a nice way to get the message across. I love this book because it's poetic, because it's so literary, and you brought my favorite character, Hamlet, into it. and this strikes a chord of humanity. Now, did you find your one note?
Did I find my one note? Yeah, I mean, I think, and I speak in the book about this, the one common note that is in everyone, and yet we find our own way to it. Well, I think it's just being so fully present here. You know, I really feel, as we said earlier, I'm 61, and
me too.
there's nowhere to go and nothing to do, and accepting that we can do anything and go anywhere. And I think that paradox is my one note's around that somewhere.
Interesting. I'm still working on my one note. For me, I need to work the earth for my one note. You had a lot of gardening metaphors. And I really related to that because the garden is a part of my soul. It is my secret garden. And I do understand about, you know, how you presented suffering and the assault to the earth with a shovel and how we do plant things. You want to talk about that?
Well, I think that, you know, the earth is opened up every time we dig in it. And, you know, and like life, experience does that to us as well, to the earth of our life. And, you know, we take it for granted when we dig in the earth. We don't think about it, and I don't know what kind of feelings the earth has or what language or how that works. But the kind of, I guess, a spiritual law of physics, if you will, is that everything in life is opened, and it's painful to be opened. But if we can help each other endure that, not go out and do it to each other. We don't have to do it. It'll happen.
You mean you don't want me to take a shovel and hit you over the head?
No.
I'll leave that to your wife. We're going to commercial break, and we will return with Mark Nepo, author of 7,000 Ways to Listen.
Dear listeners, I'm excited to tell you about my new book, Addicted to Stress. This is a message you need to hear. Are you addicted to stress? Do you do it all while everyone depends on you? Where's all this pressure coming from? It is coming from inside you. This is why my publisher, John Wiley, asked me to write Addicted to Stress, a woman's 7-step program to reclaim joy and spontaneity in life. This fun-to-read book teaches proven strategies to reclaim your life, silence your inner critic, build a healthy body, and reframe your thoughts to change your life for the better. Dare to be happy without the guilt. Addicted to Stress is easy to get. It's available at Barnes & Noble and other fine bookstores everywhere. You can also buy it at Amazon and other online retailers.
We're back with Mark Nepo, author of 7,000 Ways to Listen. Now, Mark, what I find very interesting is you made this point about speaking deeply. You know how speech gets in the way of listening. We're all talking. So what does speaking deeply mean?
What is listening deeply?
Speaking.
Speaking deeply. Well, speaking deeply, and it has to do with getting out of the way and really letting your heart speak. Really letting your heart speak so that what comes through, what you're receiving, comes through in its authenticity, which is different than being unfiltered. I'm not talking about stream of consciousness speaking. I'm talking about where if I sit with you and I go to speak immediately, it's different than if we sit together and I really behold you, and then I speak. And then I speak from where I'm being touched by your presence and your humanity and who you are. And then that touches me. So it's feeling that goes through feeling. that I think leads to deep speaking. We're closer to the truth when we are able to deeply speak.
So while you're receiving my words, you also made this very fine point about the importance of receiving. We're all taught to give, and you feel better giving. But receiving is important, and I think in life there is a balance between giving and receiving. Otherwise, you tip over and you're depleted. Could you explain the importance of receiving?
Yeah, I think at their deepest, and it doesn't happen often, but giving and receiving are actually the same. You know, when I was ill and people were kind enough and committed enough to help me, in the depth of that journey, there were days we didn't know who was ill and who was well. You know, and the image is that, you know, most indigenous cultures have this more balanced view of giving and receiving. You know, in our culture, we tend to think of giving and receiving as bartering or one or two exchanges. You give, I receive, I'm grateful, you feel good, and maybe I give back. And but it's more like circulation. It's more like blood in the body. You know, no one organ owns the body. If it did, the body would die. And the flow of what is given, the flow of the gifts, that they keep moving, the way blood keeps moving through the body, generosity has to keep moving through between us and through humanity in order that we and life stay vital and alive. So I think one of the things that's so astonishing to me in our time is that we are so geared, you know, if somebody gives you a gift, we assume everything given to us is for us. What if what I'm given, I'm supposed to be the carrier of it till I find the person it's supposed to be for? That involves deep listening, not assuming everything is for me. Oh, here's how many times have we been given something? We go, well, that's very nice, but I don't need this.
I'll regift it.
Right. But maybe it wasn't for us in the first place.
That's a very kind way of looking at it. I like that. That's really interesting. It's a new perspective. Now, I wanted to bring this point before our time together ends. The sliver of the beginning that's always there, what is that?
Every human being who's ever lived has a common sliver of the beginning, that is, of the oneness, the unity of life within us. You know, Plato said 2,500 years ago, we are born whole, but we need each other to be complete. Just like a match has fire, but until it strikes something, it's not lit.
Well, that's a great way to conclude, because I hope we've lit a few fires for people. I thought when you wrote that phrase, I thought of Meursault and the Stranger, how at the moment of preceding his execution, he was ready to begin life. So that's a great point, that we have that seed of life within us to begin again. Now, how can we learn more about your work?
Oh, well, there's two websites that house my work and where I'm teaching and speaking.
Of course, you're into opposites. I need two. Well, we have a couple of seconds, so give me one at least.
MarkNepo.com.
Okay, great. All right, so that's simple and easy. Be well, my friend, and it was a pleasure listening to you.
Yeah, well, same here. Thank you so much.
Affirmation of the week. Everyone has some kind of power. What's yours? The largest now I'm speaking about the latest medical trends. The largest analysis to date comparing ultrasound and mammography to evaluate women ages 30 to 39 with symptoms of possible breast cancer concludes that ultrasound is a superior diagnostic tool to mammography. speak to your doctor if you're in that age category. A study by the University of Buffalo shows for the first time that obese males 14 to 20 have up to 50% less total testosterone than do normal males of the same age, significantly increasing their potential to be impotent and infertile as adults. Robotic surgery offers many benefits over traditional procedures for patients who need urologic, gynecologic, or cardiothoracic procedures, including a reduced risk of complications, and it promotes a faster recovery. Robotic surgery also offers advanced capabilities to help surgeons provide better clinical outcomes than conventional open and they are minimally invasive. From the University of Ohio, companionship has the potential to reduce pain linked to nerve damage, according to a new study. People 70 and older who eat food that is high in carbs have nearly 4 times the risk of developing mild cognitive impairment, and the danger increases with a diet heavy in sugar, according to Mayo Clinic researchers. Those who consume a lot of protein and fat relative to carbohydrates are less likely to become cognitively impaired. Something to consider. Pick your poison. Cigarette smoking is a well-known risk factor for many diseases, but did you know that they increase the risk of cataracts, the leading cause of blindness and vision loss in the world? Well, we come to the close of another show. I have an educational website on stress management, totally free. TurnOnYourInnerLight.com. All the radio shows with the guest experts are archived for your listening pleasure. Just hit on the link and you go right into YouTube and listen to the show of your choice. Subscribe to my free newsletter from TurnOnYourInnerLight.com. Let me know the name of my website. And you will get a fresh new article on stress management. All the